Hi, my name is Cindy, aka Z9designs. Today is just my imagination, and so we are making something that's creative and imaginative. It can be renewed imagination or a reimagination or something like that. Well, sit back and relax and see what I am making today out of what I have. I think it is so cute. DIY number 1, a doily card. The supplies needed include 1 paper doily, reptile adhesive, white cardstock, a gold card, lavender and purple cardstock, a tiny flower, stamps, and a heart punch. Trying to figure out what to do with a doily and a paper one at that. I wish I had a cloth doily because I had a great idea, but we'll save that for a later time. I took a medium to small round paper doily and I folded it in half. And then I folded it to the left in half again. It is beginning to look like a skirt or the bottom half of a dress. So I unfolded the part, I just folded to the left, and I just cut around the edges, leaving about 1/8 of an inch at the edge. I used my trusty reptile adhesive to close the skirt. Next, I made a heart out of white cardstock using a heart punch. And then, with a little bit of paper doily that I had left, I covered the heart with the remaining paper doily, and then I removed the point. Now, you don't have to cut off the point because it can be covered by the skirt. Then I glued the heart to the skirt, and now you have a dress. I cut 2 strips of card paper stock that had purple and lavender, and I just dovetailed the ends and glued them to the front of the dress. Then I got in my stash and I found a tiny rose that was glued to the front of the dress, and now it is completed. But then I needed to put it on something. It's just not going to look good all by itself alone. So I took a gold card and glued the dress to the front, and then stamped congratulations. On the inside it says, "Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It is about learning to dance in the rain." Now you can make this as an engagement card or a wedding card by adding a tux for the groom. So let me know what your thoughts are. Now, Just Our Imagination is hosted by Kathy Jo DIYs and Rustic and Lace DIY. The guest host is Small Farm Living. I just love this collaboration to see what everyone comes up with. They are great women who love to craft and make you laugh. And of course, we cannot forget Oliver and the other dogs. Oliver is a big part of our group, but he doesn't craft because he's a dog. Be sure to subscribe, like, and save. The link to their channels is in the description box below. Now, we have other crafters who are imaginative, so check out their channels as well. The link to the playlist is in the description box below. DIY number 2, egg carton flower. The supplies needed include 3 egg cartons, some hot glue, and scissors. Now, I made 2 bowls previously using egg cartons, but I could not find the clips. I probably deleted them anyway, or I just have so many pictures in my phone I can't find them. Anyway, I decided on a beautiful flower. Did you know that some of the egg cartons are gray and others are green and yellow? I didn't know that, so when I was getting together my egg cartons, I had some yellow egg cartons. I decided to just leave it yellow. I cut about 2 to 3 strips of egg carton along the edges of the lid, but you can also use the bottom too. Next, you need to cut 10 to 12 of the cones and set them aside. Then cut at an angle on each side so there's a point at the bottom of the cone on the side that you're going to see. Then you glue them in a circle. So you can glue 10 or 12, less or more. So after those are glued together with hot glue, and you set it aside for about 5 minutes. I like to do that to make sure they're together, and if they're not, then I have to add more glue. So let's make the inside. I cut 2 strips of the edges of the lid and began making just small cuts, only about halfway through. You can't go all the way to the bottom because you just might tear off. Next, I started rolling the strips and hot gluing them just here and there, not everywhere. This is done also with the second, or you can use a third strip. Now you have the middle of the flower. So what I did is I spread out the stamens and hot glued that to the middle. Now you have a beautiful flower. And since mine has a tinge of yellow, I'm going to leave it as it is. However, the one that I have, I painted blue. So let me know what you think of this outstanding flower. Now, next, we had to use a plastic bag. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a plastic bag? So I decided to make my DIY number 3, a plastic bag carrot. Now, supplies needed include 1 plastic bag, and mine was from the Dollar Tree, and it's gray, a blue floral napkin, hot glue, blue ribbon, green acrylic paint, raffia, parchment paper, Mod Podge, hot glue, batting, and an iron and ironing board. Now, on one of the websites, they had a Chinoiserie Easter carrot. It was a set of 4, but each was $7.25 each. So I only made 1. I cut the handles off the plastic bag and then cut the sides. I found a blue and white napkin in my stash, and I just removed 1 ply. Then, now comes the magic. I put the parchment paper on the bottom of my ironing board, and then I put the plastic bag, the napkin, and the other part of the plastic bag on top. And then, of course, the parchment paper goes on top. I got out my trusty iron and ironing board. The heat was on hot. I put the iron on the parchment paper and melted the plastic. However, you gotta wait until it's cool, and then you can remove the napkin. Now, when it was removed, the napkin did not show the brilliant blue color before the process was started. So what I did is I added some Mod Podge and another napkin to the process, and it came out great because you see the plastic bag was still on top. It just had melted into the napkin. So it came out fine. Now, you can see that the regular napkin will tear, but this process is tough and it will not tear. You see me yanking on it, and I folded the napkin and cut it into a cone shape And then I folded the edges inward and just hot glued them together. I had some batting, and I just took the batting, I stuffed it inside. And then I took some raffia and kind of got it together and wrapped it. And then I painted it green and just set it aside to dry. So the next morning, I put the raffia at the top of the carrot and closed it with hot glue. Then, of course, you want it to really stand out, so I wrapped a grosgrain ribbon around the top. And then I added a blue bow and then a white one on top of that. This one is so cute, even with all of the mistakes. And you know, it's so cute, I think I'll make a couple more. So if you've liked what you've seen, be sure to subscribe, like, save, and comment. Imagining various crafts is an art, and sometimes it turns out great, and sometimes, well, I guess I'll make it over again. Also, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook. And thanks for watching each and every week. I appreciate all of your comments. And remember, it is madness for sheep to talk peace with a wolf. See you later. Bye-bye. Love, Cindy.